Alrighty, hey Honeybuns, welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here ever, welcome for the first time. I am Meela Vanderbuilt, and today I am playing Second Life, and I am here with the second episode of Vanderbuilt Diaries, Life in Bayside. So, lots of things have happened since we were last here. I don't know why. It took me some time to come up with this next episode. So sorry for the delay, but we are here now, and we're just catching up. So this is Raina and Meela, and they're just on their way to the pier. It's a new addition in Bayside. It was something that they wanted to open, so people in Bayside just had more opportunities to just kind of hang out with each other, get to know each other, feel comfortable just being in a really communal area. This has also become Meela's favorite place for meetings. So she and Ray usually come out here to have their little meetings. It was actually the middle of the day, but it was a really odd, overcast, dark day. But they threw the fire pit on. Lit actually came over to help them get the fire pit going, and they just kind of chilled here, and they came up with all of their plans for the city expansion. So Bayside is growing. They're putting in a couple of new businesses. They're bringing over the club that Meela owns. So they just had a lot of things to discuss that day. So they had their meeting, and after, they were like, it's Friday. Ezra has the kids. We are done with work. What can we do just to have a little bit of fun? So they headed downstairs, and if you are new to Bayside, downstairs is where all the happy things are. So they grabbed a couple of brownies and things kind of spiraled out of control real quick from there. Now, we do not condone this type of behavior in real life. Do not do this and go get behind the wheel of a car, but they did. So they got their little happy brownies, and they decided to do just a joyride around Bayside and hope for the best. Ray was literally struggling to get in the car. But the one thing about these things, a little OOC information for you, if you've never tried them, go get some. They basically just snatch your camera, move it all around. They animate your character really weird, or your avatar. And driving is very challenging. Walking is challenging. So even though Meela is the best driver on the grid, she had a little bit of a struggle, and she had to be towed out a couple of times. But they continued their journey of just this crazy joyride around town, and luckily there was no one in the street to get hurt. Raina, for whatever reason, thought it would be a great idea to kind of hang out at the sunroof, so she put on her helmet that she had handy, and they just continued their joyride around town, and no mailboxes were harmed in the making of this joyride video, just so you know. They are skilled. So at one point they kind of considered heading over to the food court and grabbing some tacos and stuff, but they didn't get any. They just literally kept stopping in the middle of the street to see the sights. They were very, very captivated by, one, how dark it was this day, because it's still pretty early. It was an unusually dark day for them. So they kept it going, and they started to defy the laws of gravity, and things just got real magical over here. But for whatever reason, that one spot, the mayor's office, is like a magnet for cars. And although Meela's the best driver in the grid, she couldn't seem to get past it. So they literally kept taking off. It was crazy. And then they were like, it would be fun. We should go have a night at Otaku. We should be bartenders. We should show off our drink mixing skills. So they head over to Little Tokyo. Meela does a fabulous park job because she's so good at driving. Nobody was hurt. She does this fabulous park job. Didn't destroy Raina's car that was parked there from their last night out. But they decided to go up to the bar and, one, mix some drinks, just have some good time, maybe do some karaoke, hang out a little bit, what have you. Now, the stairwell to Otaku is the stairwell of death, as it's commonly known, because it's very hard to get up these stairs when you're sober, even worse when you're not. So Meela struggled to get up. She finally did. She got behind the bar, and she was like, I'm here to mix some drinks. And by mixing some drinks, she was here to pour herself a drink. So Raina was being crazy, couldn't make it in the door, because stairwell of death, it gets the best of us. So Meela just helped herself to a martini, and Raina came in to do her little two-step, and they just were chilling out. There were a couple of people out on the balcony when they got there, so they could hear them out there partying, but they sat here and chatted for a couple of seconds before they went out. Meela was like, look, I can bring a round to everyone, so she made a couple more drinks, and she was like, drinks on the house tonight. Although she said that, she did have to pay for them, because you guys, if you haven't read the backstory for Otaku, go check it out, but they don't play that. So it wasn't on the house. She paid for them. And then she just came out here and she was having a good time dancing up a storm. And she continued dancing all night. She just felt like, you know, the next few weeks were gonna get real busy, so she wanted just a crazy wild night out. So one, she had to load up on snacks because she was starting to get hungry. So she got a bunch of these little high chew candies. These are her absolute favorite. She got some food. She got some brownies. These weren't happy brownies. These are just normal brownies. And she also got some donuts. Like, she was ready. And then she was thirsty. She was like, I'm just gonna get everything I need right now. I'm gonna eat all of these things. I can handle it. No one knows my life. So this is her trying to hydrate and get her life together. And at some point, she picked up a vape pen. Not randomly, she purchased a vape pen from somebody. So she was trying out this new flavor called green crack. They assured her there was no crack in it because, you know, she wasn't trying to get that wild. But it was called green crack, and it just made her feel all bubbly and happy and made her want to dance in the street while she ate her burger and her fries. So she finishes eating a bit. She feels herself, she's like, oh, I kind of have to go to the bathroom. Otaku's so weird about bathrooms. I'm gonna have to go to the laundromat to go. So she's like, but let me finish this real quick. I don't want to waste it. So she literally just kept shoving her face full of food before she made the voyage to the bathroom. She noticed a couple in the street. She was being super shady. She like didn't feel like going through them because she was like, I don't want people to see me like this. We don't need to stop and talk. So she did her business. She headed back over to Otaku. There were a couple more people that were going up to the bar. She could hear them from down here. People were starting to party. So she wanted to go back up and do some karaoke because she could hear everyone doing karaoke. So she had already danced around. They waited their turn and she was like, ooh, I got this. Because just as she is the best driver on the grid, she's the best singer on the grid. And she put all her energy into that performance, her little karaoke performance, and had a good time. At this point, she was like, all right, it's hot in there, I'm tired. So she decided she wanted to get some fresh air, take a couple more puffs of her vape pen, which smelled like, I don't know, like melons and strawberries for whatever reason. But her and Ray just came to chill outside. They were like, look, we really have to call an Uber. I don't think I can make it home. So they just sat here waiting for their Uber to come and chilling out, just getting some fresh air. She could still hear people upstairs, and they'd met a couple of new friends that night, so she was super excited. Yeah, they have fun. And then the next day at the Vanderbilt. So in the middle of all of that going on yesterday, Meela gets a random text from Graham talking about, I have something super important to talk to you about. Can we meet up tomorrow? Meela's like, look, I'm gonna be tired. She barely remembered it when it happened last night. So she rolled over out of bed at like noon and she noticed the text and she was like, hey, I'm gonna head over to Faith and Flower for brunch. Do you wanna just come meet me there? And he's like, sure, bet, I'll come. So she got up, got dressed as quick as she could. Raina decided to come over and have some food with them. Graham was running super late, even though he was the one that seemed like on it. But he was being super sketch about something. Like, he was like, I have something I need to talk to you about. I need to do this in person. I need you to be alone. And she was like, you know, Ray, we're fine. Whatever you tell me, I'm gonna end up telling her anyway. So they were just hanging out waiting for Graham to show up. Graham was taking his sweet time coming across town from who knows where. Where does Graham even hang out all the time? Who knows? But Meela was still just like, this is weird of him. Usually he'll just text her stuff. He's not around all that often, so he's usually just texting stuff. It's something super important. Sometimes he'll email it or just mail it, because sometimes he gets a little paranoid. But she had never seen him like this paranoid. So she was like, what is going on with you? So he showed up. Ray had just come back from the bathroom. He was like, look, I need to just talk to you alone for a second. He says hi to her. And he was like, can you just come to the bar for a second? She's like, what are you talking about? Just sit down. We'll have a conversation. We'll get you another chair. And he's like, can you just come to the bar for a second? And she's like, fine. Make me walk. I'm tired. My ankles hurt from yesterday. What do you need? So they order, well, Meela orders another martini, and they're just chatting it up. And he gives her a folder basically, and he was like, so I found some more information about Dad. And she's like, at this point, okay, what does this have to do with the expansion? Is he trying to block it? Like, what's going on? He's like, no, actually he has another son that we didn't know about. And she's like, what are you talking about? We have another brother. And he's like, yeah, but it gets a little deeper than that. He's not just our father's son, he is also your mother's son. So if it's not apparent, Graham and Meela have two different mothers. They share the same father, but not the same mother. So Graham's mother passed before Meela's mother and father met. So technically her mother is his stepmother, whatever the case. But yeah, so he's telling her they share the same parents, and Mahir is older than Graham. So now they're real confused. So they're like, wait, so he knew my mother before your mother actually passed. So they're super confused. It's a whirlwind. Graham gives her all this information. He's like, you gotta go see this guy. I can't go this weekend. You know, I have to be somewhere else. While they're having this conversation, Meela's ex shows up at the restaurant. He was just walking by and she noticed him and she's like, wait a minute, what? He had been texting her a little bit for the past like couple of weeks and she had been ignoring it. But apparently he'd moved to Bayside in that time and he had been living there for a couple of weeks and she didn't notice. Graham's not a fan of this ex. So he was watching this little catch up happen. He was over it. He was being rude. Meela was like, just relax and be a little nicer. He was like, no, I'm not having it. So he got up and left. He was like, read through all that information, go see the dude. She's like, bet. She's still just a little hungover and trying to finish her risotto. But you know, all this craziness starts happening. So she's catching up with home dude. And she's like, sit for a minute. What are you talking about? You live here. At this point, she didn't know anyone even knew where they had gone. Like, no one knew that they bought up Bayside. No one from their past lives anyway. So she was just really curious about how he got here. But he was being a little reserved with the answers. And, you know, she had a lot going on in her mind. So she wasn't really paying that much attention to it. So they ordered some dessert. And she's still like, I gotta go book a flight. So in the midst of this, she ends up texting her assistant just where she needs to go, you know, all the information that she could from really quickly reading over what Graham sent her. The assistant kept texting back like, are you sure you want to go here? And she's like, why? What's up? And apparently it's some super isolated small town in the freezing cold. So that's what's in store for her weekend. So she's trying to figure out, she's like, am I really gonna go there? Why is Graham even telling me this? That was the other thing on her head. Like, how did Graham find out? And what even brought this information on? Like, why was this coming up now? What was that all about? What's going on? Because he didn't explain himself. And of course, their conversation was cut a little short, but she didn't know if he was still looking into their dad. Because at this point, it had been a couple weeks since they even had any issues or even a conversation about what was up with their dad or anything. They were just kind of moving forward and doing their own thing. So she didn't know why this information came up or where it came from. And she wasn't entirely convinced that this was news, like new news to Graham. She kind of felt like he may have known something before. So she was just getting a little paranoid and she was sketched out by the whole thing. She was sketched out by the fact that she has a full brother that's older than Graham, meaning her mom knew their father long before they thought she did. So it was weird. She came home, she was trying to like stress drink, but there was nothing in the refrigerator. So she went to the bathroom to think things over. Didn't even notice Raina was standing in here taking photos and she was like, oh, hey. And she tells her. So that's what, it was just weird that Graham wasn't like telling, you know, saying everything in front of Ray, because he knows like she's just gonna tell Ray as soon as they leave. So she was catching Ray up on the whole situation and she's like, what, are you serious? And she's like, look, I have to fly out there like ASAP. I'm asking Ashley to give me a flight right now. So do you want to come? So Ray was like, look, I'm gonna come with you. I'm gonna have to make a detour. I'm gonna have to do a little layover because I have to go get some things done at the Monarchy, because again, the Monarchy was a flight away. It's coming soon to the, you know, to Bayside, but it's not here yet. So she had to fly in. So they just agreed Ray would fly with her halfway and then Meela will go the rest of the way and meet up with this mysterious brother, this mysterious full brother that she has. But of course she had nothing to wear. She didn't bother even packing clothes. She figured she could get some things there. She grabbed the warmest things in her wardrobe and they went to the airport to get a really quick flight because they were able to charter a jet really quickly. And they just decided to go from there. She really had no plans. She didn't know what she was gonna say to this guy. She just thought it might be a little weird to try to have that conversation over the phone and be taken serious. So they boarded their plane. Although Meela does fly a lot, she's not a huge fan of it. She tends to pass out as soon as they get on the plane. Something about all the sounds knock her out. So they were getting ready to go. Raina's all like, are you sure you want to do this and alone? And like, why couldn't Graham go with you? And at this point, Meela was trying to remember why Graham couldn't come with her. She couldn't remember, but he had something to do. And he was acting like she knew what it was, but she couldn't remember what he was even talking about or what he was getting at. she was already feeling a little under the weather at this point, but she was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go. I don't have any other options. Like, I can't put it off because I don't know, even though white Graham brought it up, that it felt time sensitive. So she's focused. She's curious beyond anything. But, you know, she was like, we're gonna go for sure. All right, so they are taking off, and the flight for Raina wasn't too long. They were gonna fly maybe 2 hours before they got to Raina's destination, and they landed, but then she had a few more hours to go to get to her destination. So while she was there, she was just reading up on this mysterious brother, and his name is Mahir Vanderbilt. And she was super shocked to read that because, one, they share the same last name, so he must know something about the father. But what she was reading is that he was raised by a woman in this snowy town that they're going to. So she doesn't even know if he knows anything about her mother, or that that's his biological mother. But what she was also reading is that mother of his recently passed. So she also just got really nervous about bringing up something sensitive like this during this time. But she was reading all about him. Apparently he was a professional snowboarder and kind of lived a pretty simple, humble life. So outside of traveling for snowboarding in the off season, he was still in the town that he grew up in, which is a really small, you know, cold, snowy town. Emphasis on cold because Meela does not like the cold, but it's a cold, snowy town, and everyone there knew him. When she was calling around looking for lodging, she did ask a couple of people if anyone, you know, knew that name, and a lot of people were pretty familiar with who he was. So she wasn't able to find a hotel, which sucked. So she was like, I'm just gonna figure out when I get there. Apparently this was not the time of year to try to get a hotel in their little town, but he was home. He had just finished some like tour snowboarding and doing whatever he does. Apparently he's like a daredevil, and he picks some of the craziest slopes. So he's known for, you know, boarding on ice and all these crazy conditions. So he's quite the daredevil, and she assumed he might be getting that from her father because Graham is the same way. So she, you know, Graham had all these links to different things in his file, so she was like looking at different YouTube videos of him snowboarding, and it looks like he's been doing this his entire life, and that's pretty much just how he lives. He snowboards, and then in the off season he just kind of hangs out in this small town of theirs. And he previously had lived just like in this little cottage, and he was kind of close to where his mother was, but he had like a small tiny cottage, and he lived a pretty simple life, and like he liked to fish and just random things. But she couldn't believe that they were related. So she was, you know, partially excited, partially very nervous to meet him, but she was trying to just not think about all the nervous thoughts. She's like, you know what, whatever. I'm all in. I'm on a flight. I'm going to be landing in a couple of hours, and, you know, this is it. We're just gonna have to see what happens. That's pretty much it for this episode. Next time we will be meeting Mahir, so she's gonna come face to face with him. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think about the whole situation. Do we trust Graham? I don't know. Like, do we even trust him? And do we trust Mahir? Like, what is going on here? Who is this? Why did he come up now? And does this have something to do with their sketchy ass dad? Because I feel like probably. But hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, and comment, por favor. Bye.
Just the other day, saw you looking my way.